Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an exhilarating game between two chess titans. Today, we have the privilege of witnessing a showdown between the reigning world chess champion Magnus Carlsen and the talented challenger Jeffery Xiong. This game took place in the early days of January 2023 during the Title Tuesday Blitz tournament. Brace yourselves for a thrilling contest. And Carlsen kicks off the game with a classic opening move, deploying the king's pawn opening. Sicilian defense, the choice of Jeffery Xiong, an opening renowned for its rich tactical possibilities. Carlsen decides to play a rather unorthodox move, pushing his pawn to a3. Is he planning a quiet pawn structure or maybe setting up a potential expansion on the queen side? Meanwhile, Xiong responds by fianchettoing his bishop with g6, a flexible setup allowing for future development. Whoa, Carlsen seems to be taking the game to a whole new level with this move. The h-pawn storming forward, creating a space advantage and posing a threat to black's pawn on g6. But hold on, Xiong immediately counters with d5, challenging the center and aiming to equalize the position. Magnus strikes again. He's relentless in his pursuit of aggression. By advancing the h-pawn, he weakens black's pawn structure and now, black's bishop finds itself under pressure. Xiong reacts by developing his bishop to g7, defending the h7 square and preparing to castle kingside. Carlsen now captures the d5 pawn, opening up the position and potentially exposing black's king to some threats. Xiong swiftly responds, recapturing with his queen, ensuring a solid defense and eyeing potential counterplay. The knights are now in action. Carlsen centralizes his knight, bringing it to c3. He's clearing the path for his other pieces, eyeing the opportunity for future maneuvers. In reply, Xiong retreats his queen to d8, perhaps aiming for a kingside castle in the near future. And here comes the bishop pair activation. Carlsen develops his light-squared bishop, targeting black's weakened pawn structure and preparing for potential long-term advantages. Xiong responds by bringing his knight out, putting pressure on Carlsen's pieces and reinforcing his center. Carlsen's pawn on d3 acts as a strong foundation, supporting his pieces and limiting any future intrusions. With this move, he plants his knight on d4, simultaneously eyeing the e6 square and strengthening his control over the center. The tension is building, folks. A bold and audacious decision by Xiong. He willingly captures Carlsen's knight on d4, provoking complications and material imbalance. Is this a tactical genius at play or a daring gamble? Only time will tell. Carlsen accepts the gambit. He captures the pawn on d4 with his knight, materializing the sacrifice and demonstrating his confidence in his strategic abilities. The position becomes razor-sharp, and the stakes continue to rise. And Carlsen responds with a fiery attack. With his queen swooping down to h5, he threatens both the h7 pawn and the undefended g6 bishop. Xiong, however, remains unfazed, defending the h7 square and preventing any immediate disasters with e6. What a captivating game we have here! Carlsen's knight dances across the board, making its way to e4, increasing the pressure on black's position. In response, Xiong strikes back, challenging the knight on e4 with his own knight on f6. The tension is palpable. Carlsen does not back down. He dares to provoke his opponent with the queen's incursion on g5, now aiming to pile up pressure on the g7 square. Xiong, being a resourceful fighter, counters with a rook move, initiating a tactical defense against the potential threats. A cunning countercheck by Carlsen. He moves his light-squared bishop to b5, targeting black's king and forcing it to abandon its cozy position on f8. Xiong has no choice but to move his king out of harm's way. Carlsen, the relentless attacker, does not let up. He sacrifices his rook on h7, offering up a delicious piece to strike at the heart of Xiong's position. Xiong accepts the challenge, capturing the rook, and his queen now stands guard on e7, protecting the vulnerable h7 square. A magnificent exchange by both players. Carlsen strikes back, capturing Xiong's rook on g7 with his queen. Xiong retaliates by capturing Carlsen's rook on g7 with his own rook. The material balance hangs in the air as the players navigate this complex battleground. Carlsen keeps the pressure on, offering a queen trade. Xiong, demonstrating his tactical prowess, decides to exchange queens, hoping to alleviate some of the pressure on his position. The game intensifies as the strategic battle unfolds. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we witness the emergence of a passed pawn. Carlsen's knight grabs the spotlight, capturing the pawn on f6 and simultaneously opening up lines of attack. Xiong counters by capturing the g2 pawn with his rook, setting up potential counterplay. Carlsen's king slides into action, participating in the battle on the open board. With the move kf1, he ensures his king's safety while exerting additional pressure on black's position. Xiong, not one to be intimidated, moves his rook to g6, reinforcing his defense and eyeing future possibilities. A strategic retreat by Carlsen. Sensing the need to regroup his forces, he moves his bishop back to g5, aligning it with his other pieces and solidifying his position. Xiong responds by developing his king's pawn, preparing for potential pawn breaks and positioning his king for the final stages of the game. Oh, what a turn of events! Xiong sacrifices his rook, taking Carlsen's bishop on g5 and creating a whirlwind of complications. With this daring move, Xiong seeks to disrupt Carlsen's coordination and open lines of attack against the exposed king. Will this gambit pay off? Carlsen, undeterred by Xiong's audacious sacrifice, develops his pieces with precision. He moves his king's bishop to a4, reinforcing his position and indirectly pressuring black's king. Xiong, on the other hand, counters by pushing his pawn to a6, preventing any potential bishop intrusions. A solid move by Carlsen, continuing to fortify his position. He repositions his bishop to a4, maintaining a strong presence and limiting black's counterplay. Xiong, ever resourceful, pushes his pawn to b5, expanding his influence on the queenside and potentially creating weaknesses to exploit. Carlsen's rook makes its grand entrance. With a swift maneuver, he places his rook on h1, eyeing potential open files and targeting the vulnerable pawns on black's queenside. In response, Xiong captures Carlsen's pawn on a4 with his b5 pawn, further entangling the position. Carlsen's rook on h1 springs into action. With the move rh6, he aims to take control of the open h-file and put pressure on Xiong's position. Xiong, however, remains resolute, placing his bishop on b7, fortifying his defenses and preparing for a potential counterattack. Carlsen's bishop proves its mettle. With a decisive capture on f6, he takes Xiong's pawn and initiates a sequence of exchanges. Xiong responds by moving his king's pawn to d6, consolidating his position and potentially creating opportunities for his remaining pieces. Carlsen's rook dominates the 7th rank. With the move rh7, he invades black's position, exerting pressure and restricting Xiong's choices. In response, Xiong counterattacks by moving his rook to g8, defending his position and preparing for potential counterplay. And the game takes another turn. Carlsen captures Xiong's bishop on d4, clearing the board of another piece. Xiong retaliates by checking Carlsen's king on g2 with his rook. The battle rages on as the players relentlessly fight for control. Carlsen, demonstrating his understanding of pawn structures, solidifies his position. He moves his bishop to f2, further reinforcing his defenses and guarding against potential threats. Xiong responds by moving his king's pawn to e7, regrouping his forces and preparing for the final stages of the game. Carlsen maneuvers his pawns, preparing to create passed pawns. With the move c4, he sets the stage for potential pawn breaks, while Xiong counters by moving his bishop's pawn to c6, fortifying his position and limiting Carlsen's possibilities. A move of precision by Carlsen. He moves his king's pawn to e3, reinforcing his king's safety and further solidifying his position. Xiong, remaining vigilant, responds by moving his rook to g8, maintaining his defenses and eyeing potential opportunities for counterplay. Carlsen relentlessly pursues active piece coordination. With a brilliant move, he checks Xiong's king on e8 with his bishop, forcing the king to move. Xiong, ever resilient, moves his king to e8, seeking refuge and ensuring his king's safety. A beautiful move by Carlsen. He moves his bishop to f6, placing additional pressure on Xiong's position and limiting his options. Xiong, recognizing the critical moment, moves his rook to g6, reinforcing his defense and preparing for the coming storm. Carlsen's pawn strikes fear into the heart of Xiong's position. With the move f6, he creates a passed pawn, threatening to advance and disrupt Black's defenses. Xiong reacts swiftly, capturing Carlsen's pawn on f6, hoping to alleviate some of the pressure and create counterplay. Carlsen's bishop strikes back. With a resolute move to d6, it eyes potential breakthroughs and poses a constant threat to Xiong's position. Xiong, tenacious as ever, checks Carlsen's king on g3 with his rook, seeking to create complications and find a glimmer of opportunity. Carlsen maintains the pressure. He moves his rook to g6, unrelenting in his pursuit of victory. Xiong, standing his ground, moves his rook back to f6, reinforcing his defenses and preparing for the tumultuous final stages of the game. A tactical skirmish between the players. Carlsen checks Xiong's king on e7 with his rook, forcing the king to move yet again. Xiong, facing this relentless pressure, moves his king's pawn to d8, ensuring his king's safety and preparing for the ensuing tactical battles. Carlsen makes a decisive move. He captures Xiong's rook on f6 with his rook, removing one of Black's major defensive pieces. Xiong counterattacks by moving his king's pawn to d7, activating his pieces and challenging Carlsen's position. Carlsen strikes with a vengeance. He advances his pawn to f5, creating a powerful passed pawn and posing an imminent threat. Xiong, undeterred, checks Carlsen's king on g4 with his rook, seeking counterplay and hoping for a glimmer of salvation. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. A decisive victory for Magnus Carlsen. With his final move, he attacks Xiong's remaining pieces and forces resignation. What a spectacular game filled with bold sacrifices, tactical maneuvers, and strategic brilliance. Magnus Carlsen emerges triumphant in this titanic battle of minds. What an incredible display of chess mastery and strategic prowess. Magnus Carlsen proves once again why he reigns as the world chess champion. We hope you enjoyed this thrilling game and the passionate commentary that accompanied it. Until next time, chess enthusiasts.